I'm some guy you've never heard of, and this is December 2025 channel update. Let's get a quick diamond mine out of the way. Okay, you're gonna set me up like that. Alright, so we got the gold diamond bar. Alright, cool. Alright, so December's schedule will be continuing just the same as November's was. We're not adding any new games, we're not taking any we're not taking anything away, we're not rearranging anything. Nothing is wrapping up this in December. So that said, Monday will still be Skyrim, The Tale of Azeroth the Scoundrel in the 8 AM slot, and Baldur's Gate 3, The Misadventures of Rios Chillax in the 8 PM slot. Tuesday will still be Crusader Kings 3, Life on the Steppe in the 8 AM slot, and Europa Universalis 3, AEIOU in the 8 PM slot. Wednesday will still be Starfield Endless Exploration in the 8 AM slot, and Claire Obscure Expedition 33 in the 8 AM slot. 8 PM slot. Sorry. Thursday will continue to be Pathfinder Kingmaker: The Chronicle of Arya Cyril in the 8 AM slot, and our second episode of Europa Universalis 3 AEIOU in the 8 PM slot. Friday will be exactly the same as Monday, with Skyrim, The Tale of Azeroth the Scoundrel in the 8 AM slot, and Baldur's Gate 3, The Misadventures of Rios Chillax in the 8 PM slot. Then Saturday will be Kingdom Come Deliverance in the 8 AM slot, and our third episode of Europa Universalis 3 AEIOU in the 8 PM slot. And then finally on Sunday in the 8 AM slot we have Mountain Blade Warband, and in the 8 PM slot we have our second episode of Claire Obscure Expedition 33. I am considering doing a bit of a rebalance, reshuffle in January, but I'm not sure, I'm not 100% on that yet. There are some games that I feel like should be demoted back down to 1, and some games that I'd like to put back up to 2 slots. And I'm slightly toying with the idea of putting Europa at 4. Just because, I don't know why, but that's my most popular game. I get so many comments like, Europa 3 in this year? And as a clarification, because this is one of my #1 questions asked, why am I playing Europa 3 instead of Europa 4? I adored Europa 3. I think it was actually my first Paradox grand strategy. And I played so much of that, and then it eventually became my comfort game, which I would go back to usually at least like once a year after I was frustrated with a playthrough in some other game. And then when 4 came out, I gave it a chance, and the interface was so different, and there were certain things that felt like really restrictive. Like, yeah, in Europa 3 there are lots of things that are tied to your culture or to certain nations, but it felt like it was even worse in Europa. In 4, that is. Kind of reminded me of like some of that shift between Civilization 2 and 3, where now you had all these traits that were applied to each ruler. And yeah, there were a handful of different traits. And so you could have pretty much the same playthrough with certain rulers that like matched up on their traits. But then there'd only be like a few that would have that same trait combination. And so, I don't know, I liked the idea, but at the same time, without like being able to create your own ruler or whatever, it felt kind of restrictive. And then 4 was even more so, but 4 is still like the best game in the franchise in my opinion. Although to be fair, I haven't played 7 at all, and I've barely touched 6. But one of these days I need to get around to playing some Civilization games on here. Maybe I'll stream one. That'd be fun. I am going to continue trying to stream on Sundays, my schedule permitting. I currently have a tendency of either having Sundays off, or at the very least not closing on Sundays, which makes streaming more feasible. As much as I was hesitant about the idea of streaming, I am enjoying it. Because I feel like it's giving me an outlet for those other games that I have wanted to play, but it's like, it just doesn't really make for a Let's Play quite as well. Like with my Sims playthrough. Like, I get a handful of people watching those, which is fun. But I feel like I would get no views at all if those were 45-ish minute episodes in the Let's Play schedule, in the regular video schedules. Yeah, looks like this one's about to end. Also, for January, we will be playing a different game for the updates. I just haven't figured out what that's going to be yet. Something light and casual like this. Maybe I'll return to Dominion. That is definitely one of the better board game adaptations I've seen. I'm just not sure. Oh, this'll do it. That saved our little greenie down right there. Okay, cool. Come on, stop taking away all the greens that he's getting close to. Oh, now this yellow is the one most in danger. Oh, I didn't even notice this green one over here. So yeah, in the near future, I don't see any other games getting added for a bit. I'm assuming somewhere in the first quarter of 26, we will be finishing the Misadventures of Riotous Chillax, in which case I will be starting a new playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3, maybe an Origin, probably an Origin. I don't feel like it's time for another tab yet. But there's a poll up in regards to that. Starfield will keep plodding along. Skyrim will keep plodding along. No major developments in Skyrim that would make me want to start a new playthrough. Or make it more prevalent on the channel. That'll probably get dropped down to once a week. Life on the Steppe will continue on, I think, through... I think somewhere into January. Maybe February. And then once we start with the All Under Heaven and such, then I think we're going to up how many that gets. Pathfinder is going to keep prodding along. I wouldn't be surprised if that wraps up in the first quarter of 26, but I also would not be surprised if it doesn't. Alright, let's just go ahead and end this game. Sorry, Butterfly. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I did not actually feel like playing again. Well, I guess I'm playing again. Oh, I did not even notice that one up there. Right, I've got that yellow dude sitting up over there. Indeed. Game over indeed. So thank you very much for watching. This has been the December 2025 channel update. I'm some guy you've never heard of.